My name is Chad Frontier, Associate Pastor here, and VBS is coming up. It is such an incredible thing to be a part of. Last year was our biggest yet, and that was so fun to see so much energy in the room. But we said it as the wrap-up last year, and we've mentioned it a little bit leading up to this one, is the energy of our volunteers last year was so cool. I think we went at it saying, okay, we need some people to volunteer, some people to serve. But it ended up just creating this environment where everyone was just so excited to be there. And every day, the volunteers were showing up, dressed up wilder and more excited to try and get the kids excited. And just, it was such an atmosphere of it was an honor to get to be a part of it. And that was so beautiful to see. So if you are interested in signing up for a child or for volunteering, please do so. It's a wonderful program and just a couple weeks out. Well, good morning. We are in the middle of a series. So if you just walked in and it's your first time, you don't know us yet, we're going to get you up to speed. We're in the middle of a series. And we're in the middle of a weird series that we've never done anything like this. So just going to say it. We have been preaching through the 7 deadly sins. So I'm going to go ahead and close my eyes. And if you need to step out or want to step out, then I will allow you to do that. No, I'm kidding. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be good. We have been saying there's no elbow poking during this series unless you're poking yourself. This is just a good series talking about this. And it's based in this Catholic teaching of the 7 deadly sins. And they're based in Scripture. They are pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, anger, and laziness, sloth. They are first compiled by Pope Gregory in the 6th century, and then they were later codified by Thomas Aquinas, kind of the father of Catholic theology in the 13th century, who organized them and brought them in to be a piece of catechism and a part of their more formalized teaching. And these 7 vices were picked because they are vices that spur other sin and immoral behavior. But that is not why we are teaching them, and that's not why we have chosen to do this series. The reason that we find these so important to teach is based in our title of the series. If you can put that graphic up, of The Way to Life. This is not 7 weeks of us pounding the pulpit and calling out other people's sin. That's not our role. This is looking at the way to life and how these sins pull away from that, detract from that. The key verse is found in Matthew 7:13 and 14. It says, "Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few." And this passage is an invitation. It's an invitation to a way of life that he has been unpacking throughout the whole Sermon on the Mount. That saying how the law has failed to bring people towards righteousness, and that he extends it so much beyond the law. It's to a matter of heart. And he invites us into it. Why? Is because it leads to life. In the first week, we opened with this Hebrew understanding of the word wisdom. They use this word called hukmah, which is that as God created this world and as God sustains this world, he has interwoven a way of doing these elements of life, a way of living that leads to more life and flourishment and health and growth. And as we read the wisdom literatures, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job, we see this outlined of these God's way of living that leads to more life. And the reason that we're doing this series is because it is outlining some of these breaches of hukmah. Some of these ways that we steer away from God's way of living that will end up causing decay and destruction in our lives, our families, our communities. Which brings us to today's sin. And it is one that, we often trade off preaching, but Ryan said that he felt too personally convicted, I think you said were your words, about this sermon, too emotionally enthralled that he couldn't deliver it. And so he's sitting this one out, and I'm going to go ahead and teach it. And I'm so glad you're not Mike today, Ryan. That's great, just me. And it's the big one, guys. It's the big one. It's the one since the series began. It's the one that everyone's been worried about, that everyone's been asking about, and that no one's wanted us to preach. They've been curious, but they don't want to be here on the week that we actually preach it. They just kind of want to hear about it maybe after. It is gluttony. Just kidding. That's not what anyone was worried about. That one's still coming. Don't worry. Or worry, but it's not today. Today we are talking about gluttony. And gluttony is a weird one in that it is easily the most trivial of all of them. It's the one that you were least worried about, and I can prove it. Here's how I'm going to prove it. If you were to look at that list of 7, and then you were to look at our dear Pastor Ryan right here, and you had to pick one of these sins for Ryan to be found guilty of, one of these sins for him to be afflicted by, would you not choose gluttony? Right? Lust? No, thank you. We don't want to see you go down that. Greed, it's been done before in church. No, not a good look. Not a good look with donated funds. And pride or anger. No one wants an egotistical, angry pastor preaching at them all angry. We've seen that too. No, thank you. Would it be sloth? No. We need him to get stuff done. Do you want to listen to a lazy sermon? I don't want to listen to a lazy sermon. If you had to pick one, you would say, yeah, let's let Ryan double down on the donut table, and that's okay. He's here 2 services. He should get twice as much donuts, you know. We would choose that, but that just exposes the fact that we're not that worried about it. Of all the sins, it's the one that we're least worried about. And I joke about this because it seems trivial, but I think because it seems trivial, it exposes the fact that we need to deepen our understanding of gluttony, that we need to widen our understanding of gluttony to where it puts it in a position where we are asking ourselves if we are over-consumers. And because it's so misconstrued, I want to start with a couple misconceptions about gluttony, and then one bonus misconception. First, that people might say is, I'm a glutton at Thanksgiving, right? At Thanksgiving, when even if you try and take small sides, there's just like 14 sides, and like how many different ways can you present yams, and then the plate just builds up until you just need 2 plates. And everyone goes through this where everyone feels like they overate at the end of a holiday. That is not gluttony. Okay? Gluttony is defined as a habitual practice, a habitual sin, something that you regularly overconsume. An occasional celebration, a wedding, an anniversary, a holiday, people will overconsume, and that is not gluttony. I'm not saying it's healthy, but it's not gluttony. Gluttony is a habitual lifestyle of overconsumption. Number 2. Oh, actually, sorry, with this one. Socrates has such a great quote on this. Let's think about all week. Socrates said, all things in moderation, including moderation, is what Socrates says. All things in this life partake in moderation, including moderation itself. There's going to be those rare occasions where you do break moderation and you overeat on a holiday and whatever. Okay, number 2, misconception. I'm in shape. This is something that people say, not something that I say. I'm in shape, so I don't struggle with gluttony, someone might say. So I must not struggle with gluttony. Well, sorry, skinny people, you are not off that easy. Gluttony is a much more wider and much, that's a bad word. It's a much broader understanding. Thomas Aquinas, who really, as I said, codified these, he listed 5 different ways that gluttony exposes itself, 5 different variations of the sin of gluttony. And they all have Latin names, and I'm terrible at Latin pronunciation, so we'll bear through it. Nimis is the first one, eating too much. This is your traditional view of gluttony that you're thinking of, overeating. Number 2, latte, eating too expensively. As I said, there's a heart issue at the core of gluttony that we're going to be getting to. And like Jesus says in Luke 12, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Right? And it's just this idea of how much are you spending on your food. And I'm not talking about an anniversary. I'm not talking about a birthday dinner, taking someone out. I'm talking about regularly how much of your treasure do you value in what is just going to serve your mouth or serve your stomach. I shared this first service, but I used to be a part of a beer society. And I was a big home brewer. I was also bigger, so I was a big home brewer, and I was getting into it, and then I ended up being a part of this beer society where you pay a subscription, and quarterly you get this delivery of these really, really special high-end beers, right? They come in champagne bottles, wax dipped. They're very, very small productions. They're very expensive, and they're really, really good. I had to stop it because I was spending too much money? No. Because I was drinking too much of it? No. I had to get rid of it because I wasn't drinking it enough. Because these were so valuable and so rare that I never found an opportunity or a reason to open one, you know? And then whenever people would be over, like, oh, I should, no, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's a bigger party coming, a bigger holiday coming, right? Oh, I should give this as a gift. Gifts cap at like $40. I'm going to go put this back. You know what I mean? We're going to put this right there. They were too expensive that I ended up, it's not for everyone, but for me, I had so much anxiety, they became a burden of my inability to just enjoy it, to share it. It was too expensive for something that was just a beverage. Studios, eating too daintily. I was looking at this for a bit. I would probably say the word picky. Eating too picky, when you are unable to simply enjoy something because you're overly critical. When someone made you a meal and you want to say thank you, and your mouth says thank you, but in your head you're saying you overcooked it, right? Simply eat it and enjoy it and be sustained by it. I shared that I was visiting a friend of mine in Portland, and at the time I was a bit of a bagel connoisseur, I would say. If you love bagels, bagels are so good. But if you know, bagels are a bit kettled, right? They're kettled, and that's what gives them that kind of that shiny outside. It's a different versus just a baked bread. And I was visiting my buddy in Portland, and he knew I really liked bagels. He said, oh, there's this best bagel shop. We got to go to this bagel shop. So he takes me there, and he buys me a bagel. And as I'm eating it, it tastes really good. And he asked me what I think of it, and I say, it tastes good, but I don't think they kettled it. I don't think they kettled it enough. That doesn't feel very shiny on the outside. It's, it's a different material, whatever. And that was like 14 years ago. I still remember that because I know what I should have said was, Mark, this is a great bagel. Thank you for taking me out and sharing this with me that we can enjoy this, right? This is an example of this too picky. I was being too picky with this gift that someone was trying to share with me, and got too into that. Eating too soon or at an inappropriate time. You can get a little clue of where we're going at the heart issue, is that it is about this consumption that starts to override other values at an inappropriate time. Fill in the blank. I don't even know what that would be. When are you eating that it's maybe uncalled for? Interesting. And then ardenter is just eating too eagerly, eating like you haven't eaten in days, or like you're from a really big family and you got to fight for your plate. These are ways that manifest this idea of gluttony. So just because someone defines themselves as in shape doesn't necessarily mean they have a healthy view of what they consume. Third, gluttony is only about food. So gluttony literally comes from the Latin word, again, can't get away from Latin today, is glutere, which means to gulp down. And the context is in the context of a fine wine, like these, or a really fancy beer bottle from a while back, that you just gulp it down. You don't enjoy it. You don't savor it. You just swallow it, and you never experience it. And that's where this word of gluttony comes from. So it's beyond food. It's obviously food and drink. But I would argue, and want to make this point today, that it is beyond food and drink. That we should generalize it to what we consume with our mouths, with our eyes, with our ears, with our hands. What are we consuming in our life? And are we over-consuming? What does that look like? Because like everything else, there is a heart issue attached to this. Matthew 15, Jesus is in this debate with some of the Pharisees over some of the dietary and cleanliness laws. And he called the people to him and said to them, "Hear and understand, it is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of the mouth, this defiles a person." Then the disciples came to him and said, "Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying?" And Jesus responds to them, "Do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is expelled? But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this defiles a person." What Jesus cares about way more than what you're eating is what your heart is producing, what is coming out of your life. Interesting. Also, it should be said that gluttony became most associated with food in the context the Bible was written from. Because until this modern era, food scarcity was a major issue, right? That we have reliable sources of good and clean and protected food. And that even those who have no money have places they can go and they can be fed. That was not always so. And there was a day and time where this is being written where me overeating what I need would be at the expense of those outside my doorstep who that could save their life. I would argue that America has more of a food waste problem, the amount of grocery stores and restaurants that just have to throw away food. But yes, for them it was much more associated with an apathy towards poverty. And that's not as relevant today unless you're the person who takes the last maple bar at church. Then there's a problem. You should look into that. So, number 4, this one's not necessarily specific to gluttony. This is a misconception, though, that impacts gluttony, is that a good Christian practices asceticism at all times. And I always mix that up with the one that's like interior design. But asceticism is the idea that you think of with monks. It is self-denial. It is self-denial of all worldly pleasures. So you think of monks for a second. Do you know those brown robes they would wear? That they were designed specifically to be scratchy. And that they were not allowed to wear anything underneath. Not even underwear. The entire purpose of these was to practice asceticism. That every day they have to deny themselves the desire to scratch and to practice this. Well, hey, that's great for monks. That's beautiful. And I think there are absolutely times in your life when you need to practice self-control, or temperance, we call that. Absolutely. But I don't think that the ideal Christian is someone who lives in this state of asceticism, of continual self-denial. And I want to look into it as why. I believe that's a misconception, because I believe that life is a gift from God and is to be enjoyed. We're going to mainly look at the book of Ecclesiastes today. It comes from that wisdom, that Hukmah tradition. And in it you have this writer, the teacher, whose voice we hear for most of it. And he has a pretty cynical view on the world. He's exhausted everything in this world. He has chased down every pursuit. And he says they all come up empty. But there are 2 statements, 2 truths that he continues to return to. 2 things that throughout his cynicism he keeps reiterating. The first one is fear the Lord. He says that consistently throughout the book. That's something that he doesn't shake. Is fear the Lord. Trust God's authority, God's sovereignty over your own in your life. That feeds into this idea of Hukmah, that we trust his way of living over our own, that it will lead towards greater life. The second truth that this writer continues to return to is this: enjoy the simple gifts this world has to offer. Doesn't sound super deep and mystical and spiritual, does it? Let's read this. A couple examples. Ecclesiastes 2. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil, that you find pleasure in the things you put your hand and your minds to, that you put your work to. This also, I saw, is from the hand of God, for apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? Ecclesiastes 8. And I commend joy. For man has nothing better under the sun but to eat and drink and be joyful. For this will go with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. And last one, Ecclesiastes 5. Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possession and power to enjoy them and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil. This is the gift of God, for he will not much remember the days of his life because God keeps him occupied with the joy in his heart. He's saying life is fleeting. Your life will go quickly before your eyes. And if you spend every moment of it anxiously striving for what you think might bring you happiness and fulfillment in life, you will end up getting there and it will not be worth it. It'll be dissatisfying. He argues that a better, more content way of life is learning to appreciate the simple beauties and joys this world has to offer. And we've done that, right? There's always this list of things that I want and I'm chasing, I'm working towards, whatever. But then you'll get these moments where the place is just quiet and you just got a cup of coffee and you just savor it, you know? Or you're camping and you look at the world around you and you just slow down and you savor it. And you let all those wants and desires just kind of wash out of you. This is what he's saying. Food and drink, these are not temptations to be avoided. They are incredible blessings that God literally creates to spawn out of the dirt. I don't have a green thumb in me. My dad loves to plant. He's planting every little space at church that's unused. He's growing fruit trees and all this. He's got blueberry bushes. I always remind him they sell those at the grocery store, but he's going through all this work of planting them. But it's incredible. What used to just be barren dirt is growing blueberries right now. And they're sweet, and they're delicious, and they have antioxidants, and they're good for you. And this world is so beautiful that our world produces what we need. I think of Adam and Eve in the garden. They had everything they needed. And yet the fear that maybe it wasn't enough, the fear that maybe there's more, was enough for them to trade it all in, to risk it all. We live in a beautiful, bountiful world. And sometimes what we need to do is not chase more, but learn to slow down and value these small beauties as gifts of God. I think of, for a long time, ancient civilizations described wine and beer and mead as gift of the gods because they had no idea how it happened, wild airborne yeast, but they would put fruit or some grain in a bucket with water and set it out there and come back to it, and it would be an alcoholic beverage. How did that happen? It's miraculous, this world. Jesus himself miraculously creates wine at a wedding. And the people who try, it makes so much, if you read onto the volumes, makes more than they could possibly consume. And the people at the wedding comment that it's the best wine they've ever tasted. How can we argue that these things are not blessings to be enjoyed? Gluttony is so unique from these 7 deadly sins in that it's the only one that really starts with something that's good. It's not about avoiding something that's bad. It's starting with something that is good and that is meant to be enjoyed. Gluttony takes what is good, what is meant for good, yet when it's held out of balance, is destructive. That's why I'm the perfect person to preach this message. I was joking about Ryan. Not just because I have been a card-carrying member of the Big Boys Club for a while, but because everything I do in my life, I feel like I obsess over. Hobbies, I take hobbies to no end, to where I am researching and videos and podcasts, and I can't put it down. The random trades. I became like an electrician on the side. I don't know. We were renovating our house, and I had to learn it, and then we stopped renovating the house, and I kept learning about it. I was just so enthralled and excited, and I kept going. I'm an obsessive person in everything I put my hands to, and that's why this is so good for me, because those things are not bad. They're good. That's so good. But things can become destructive when they take the aim of our life. I think of this idea. Aristotle said that gluttony is a childish vice because temperance is a learned skill. Evolutionarily, our bodies have told us that what is sweet and what is high in fat is good, because if you weren't chasing those things during food scarcity, you wouldn't have survived. Well, now they don't know about McDonald's and the grocery store, but we have plenty of access to that kind of stuff, and it happens to be cheaper, which doesn't help. I have 2 little girls. I did not have to teach them that French fries are good. I just let them have one, and they learned that for themselves, right? I didn't have to teach them that you're about to experience ice cream and brace yourself, it's going to be good. You just gave them a bite, and then their eyes lit up, and they got so excited, and now they just want ice cream. We desire these things naturally, but temperance, the idea of self-control, is not naturally occurring. It is a skill that is learned. I remember when I first went into vocational ministry, it was a preteen ministry, 5th and 6th graders. And I had just come out of interning for Ryan in high school ministry. And I treated this preteen ministry exactly like I was a part of the high school ministry. Way too much freedom for 5th and 6th graders. So, like in that day and age, all-nighters were really popular youth ministry things, right? And so we did an all-nighter pretty early on when I started there. And we're back at the church. It's like 11 o'clock at night. We're just starting a movie. Went cosmic bowling, the whole thing. And I put out a big snack table, which is lots of good snacks, and just left them out there. And the movie's starting. I turn around, and some kids made a little plate. And I see this one kid, Christopher Butler, I always remember. And he was just perched up. This service isn't live stream, so it's fine. Christopher Butler, and he is just ripping open candy and just going for it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've met his family. I think he lives a pretty sheltered life. I don't think he sees a lot of this kind of stuff at home, gets the access to this, which is good. And he's just diving in. About 15 minutes later, I look back, and there's a pile of wrappers, and he's just at the table, just as fast as he can dismantle these wrappers, he is just consuming. About 20 minutes later, up until the minute that his body rejected all of this candy, he was still just shoving it in. He had no self-control, no temperance. He tasted something that he wasn't allowed access to at home, I guess, and he just went for it. We must learn self-control, must learn temperance. It is not something that naturally occurs. Okay, I think of my kids overplaying certain music or movies, right? If you have young kids, you've experienced this. One of my nephews showed one of my little girls Danger Zone from the Top Gun soundtrack, okay? It's fine, nothing wrong with that. That's great. Except when we will listen to that on repeat for like a 4-hour drive and just over and over and over again. And what was enjoyable, what was good is now just painful for me to listen to. And I think of just the naturally occurring beauties of this world. The naturally occurring sugar in fruit and in honey. That's incredible. That is such a blessing to be enjoyed. And yet what we do is we take it and we refine it and we build our diets around it, and then our health suffers because of it. When we overconsume something that was meant for good and it becomes destructive. Now, I'm not trying to equate sugar with sin. I really don't care about that. What I need you to see is the greater issue of gluttony. It is a heart issue when we take something that is good and to be enjoyed, yet when overconsumed becomes destructive. Consider the gift of alcohol. Not just that it was a drink to be enjoyed, but for a long time it was the only way to avoid dysentery, right? When they couldn't get access to clean water, you would cut water with some alcohol, and the alcohol kills the bacteria, and that would protect you. Monasteries were the biggest producers of wine, and they were delivering it to the people because they had to cut it with water so they could drink without dying of dysentery. Distilled alcohol has been used as an antibacterial in medicine for over 5,000 years. It is a gift. And yet, when overconsumed, look at the devastation and destruction of alcoholism. That's not hard to do. We have all seen it around us. We've all seen it in our lives. Something that is good, but overconsumed causes decay, destruction. So what are some of these blessings to be enjoyed? Well, I think of, as I said already, food and drink. It's an obvious one. But what else? How about art and entertainment? These are good. These are beautiful creations out of human society that we get to enjoy. I like that our worship band practices and puts together something that is pleasing to our ears and it's entertaining to watch. That's good. That's great. These things are good. But when we overconsume, when they make themselves the aim of our lives, is when it starts causing destruction. Personally, church, a little confession on behalf of my wife. I have been, she has my permission to, she gave me her permission to do this. She's serving in kids right now. I have been the victim of gluttony this past month, the victim of it, because my wife was turned to this book, is a 3-part fantasy novel, okay? Probably 1,000 pages, all 3 books together. She has read them in the past 3 or 4 weeks twice. She has been reading these things non-stop. And every night it's like, get the kids to bed, and it's like, hey, you want to hang out? No, just going to read the book? Okay, I'll be here. I'll be over here. And she had it on her phone, and every still moment you look over, she'd just be reading this. She read it all the way through, and then she instantly restarted it again and started going through it and underlining. And she has all these theories and trying to figure out what's going to happen based on all these clues in the book. Last night, she was updating this Google Doc that had all these things laid out, and she has a lunch plan with other people who are reading this book because she wants to talk about it so much. She's just so into this book. And we joke about this, but it's funny. Actually, it was on Friday. I had told her earlier in the week that I was going to use this as an example, and she gave me permission, whatever. Because I came home and I said, "You're a glutton for this book," and she goes, "No, I'm not over-consuming. I just can't get enough." And yeah, it's funny though. On Thursday or Friday, she's like, "Well, I finished the 3rd book for the 2nd time." And then she started talking about something she was reading in Proverbs that she was really liking. And I was like, don't you try and get ahead of this sermon. She knew it was coming, so now she could say like, oh yeah, but I'm done with it now, and now I'm back to reading my Bible. It's funny, and we've been joking about this all week, her and I, all month really. What makes it funny is that this is her Thanksgiving, you could say, right? She doesn't do this all the time, but this book just sparked her imagination, and she's just gotten so into it that she's just devouring it right now. If in 6 months this is still what's happening, we have a problem on our hands, and we should take that more seriously, right? But this is what this looks like. We take something that's good, and we overconsume to the point of destruction around us. I told her, I said, I know I can't say the name of the book, or else so many people are going to be. Social media and the news, right? Social media is good. If you think about it, it is something that allows you to connect with people who you don't see on a day-to-day basis. People from high school and college and family, and you get to share pictures of what's going on in your lives. That's beautiful, although I don't even have to explain all the dangers of social media. We see it all around us. How much that can skew reality. How much that can just birth envy in you. The news, it's good to be informed. It's good to know what's going on in the world, not have your head in the sand. And yet, how often do you see someone who is so into the news, into what's going on, that that's all they can talk about, right? That it's actually ruining their reality. Ryan and I were talking about a time a couple years ago when the news kept talking about how much we all hated each other and how much division there was. But we were saying, I haven't yelled at anyone today. I haven't hated someone because of the color of their skin today. I don't think that was actually my community's world, but it is out there. But the news can distort to where that's all we see. How about sports, exercise, and hobbies? Oh, hobbies. I love to obsess over hobbies. Oh, and fantasy football makes sports a hobby. Oh my gosh, right? These things are good. This is fun. This is beautiful. Hobbies, you got to put your hands to something. You got to create something. You got to have this creative outlet. That's great. And yet it's so easy to become obsessed over these things at the detriment of other things. Okay, here's like the whole thesis of the sermon in this one paragraph. Ultimately, life in God's creation is meant to be enjoyed, a gift from our benevolent Creator. But it is very easy to let the blessings of life become the aim of our lives. And when we let that happen, the blessings become a curse. They rob us of kingdom priorities. They manifest a delusion of priorities. They make us delusional about our priorities. I will get so obsessed with some news thing I'm following or some hobby I'm into to the detriment of things that I would say matter more. Attention with my kids, spiritual growth, professionalism. These are all things that I would say matter more, and yet it's so easy to let things that are good become overconsumed. The issue isn't gluttony of food, drinks, books, TV, news, whatever. It is the aim of your life and the priorities that you live by. And I'm not talking about a moment of gluttony, a couple weeks of reading a book, a holiday of overeating. I'm talking about the pursuits of your life. In Ecclesiastes, in chapter 3, I'm just going to summarize a little bit. This teacher talks about the balance of life. He says everything is there. For everything there is a season, a time for every matter under the sun. He lists on tons of things: a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. He goes through all of creation, talks about these different seasons that are meant to be held in balance. And he continues, he says, He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, He has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I perceive that there is nothing better for him than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. He has made everything beautiful in its time. That these things are good, but they must be held in balance. He goes on to talk about what it looks like when you hold these things out of balance. He pursues everything that we would say is good in the world, and then he pursues things that we would say are not good in the world, and things that are actually against the Hebrew law that he's a part of, but he pursues them anyways. He pursues them to all end, and look what he finds. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure, enjoy yourself. But behold, this also was a vanity, was a chasing after mist, chasing after the wind. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine. My heart still guided me with the wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what is good for the children of man to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted them and all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the harvest, the forest of the growing trees. I bought male and female slaves. Like I said, it goes beyond the law, beyond what is good, and had slaves who were born in my house. I had also great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any of whom had been born before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold in the treasure of the kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the sons of man. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained within me. And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure. For my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Listen to this last part. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I had expended in doing it. And behold, all was vanity, and all was striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. He pursued it all. He pursued it all to the end. He got exactly what he wanted, and it was all meaningless. It was all empty. There are so many good things in this world that are meant to be enjoyed, meant to be experienced and savored. And yet when we make them our aim, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment, for a lack of contentment, and for destruction of everything around us. He denied himself nothing. So to help you as you look at this, when we talk about gluttony, we're not just talking about food and drink. We're talking about everything you consume, even good things that you consume. I want to have you ask yourself a couple things, a little bit of a warning signs of gluttony, what they are. So a couple real quick as we start to close. One is dissatisfaction or disappointment with that which you have chased. So we talked about with Ecclesiastes, what he found, and it was not enough. When you experience something for the first time, this restaurant, and you're so excited, it was so good, and you take someone with you, and you're hyping it up, and you eat it, and you're like, it wasn't as good as I remember, right? That when you chase something more and more, and then you end up getting dissatisfied with it, that somehow our ability to enjoy something diminishes through our consumption. Number two is the detriment of our relationships, professionalism, and overall health. The DSM is a book for mental health therapists to diagnose mental health conditions. And the DSM on its section on alcoholism, it's interesting. They're saying you can't say it's not a certain volume of alcohol that makes someone alcoholic. There's all these factors you have to look at. And one that's very interesting is social impairment. Essentially that drinking that interferes with responsibilities at home, at work, at school, and continuing to use alcohol even when it causes problems with family and friends, right? The destruction, the decay of the rest of your life is a warning sign that alcohol is being overconsumed, that you might be an alcoholic. Consider that with everything else. I talked with a guy at the end of first service who came up to me and he said, for me, it was sailing. And this guy was vulnerable and honest in sharing this. He said that he was super into sailing and he loved it. And sailing is good. I used to like to sail, and you're out on the water and you're experiencing God's beauty, and it's good, it's fun. But then he said he started getting good at it, so he started competing. He started competing more and more. And then he'd be on these races where they'd be gone for weeks. And then he said, he realized, like, I'm missing my kids' childhoods. And so he sold the boat and walked away from it all. That's beautiful. Because sailing is good, enjoyable, that's fine. But he recognized this, that he was over-consuming something that was good to the detriment of something he cared about more. Sometimes this is something minor, like this person who experienced that, where you just realize that your priorities are getting delusional, that they're out of whack, and that you want to reorient them, and you can create a boundary. He sold the boat. That's one option. Sometimes it's a lesser option. It's I'm going to put boundaries. Okay, I can only read the news for this time. I can only consume social media for this amount of time, right? If you've ever seen on your phone the screen time app, horrifying the first time you look at it and you realize how much of your life you were just giving away to a phone. Right, so you can create boundaries. You can create boundaries and changes to reprioritize your life. Sometimes, though, the reason runs much deeper. That there are deep-seated hurts and issues that are numbing, that you are numbing with these things. Whether that be alcohol or substances or anything else, that you are consuming something so much to avoid dealing with the actual problem. And I would, at that point, absolutely encourage seeing a mental health therapist at that time. They are excellent at helping to get to the root of these issues, to deal with that hunger. Third warning sign, third and last warning sign is the delay and decay of kingdom values. The delay and the decay of kingdom values. Here's what I mean by delay. If you are newer to your faith and you are growing in your faith, but you recognize that there's some pieces of your life that you might be over-consuming. You might be a glutton of certain issues. So you're growing in your faith, but you're refusing to grow into these areas because you know there's going to be friction. There's going to be an issue. And so you just choose not to look at that yet. That is a delay of kingdom values. And then a decay of kingdom values is for Christians who have once shared certain kingdom values and have watched them slowly deteriorate because of everything else they've cared about. Everything else that's good and to be enjoyed, but have become the aim of their life to the decay of kingdom values. Let me read one passage as we begin to close that says it perfectly. It's in Philippians chapter 3. Paul is speaking of developing a Christ-like character, and he writes about people who used to be a part of the church but have fallen away. Listen to this. He says, "Not that I have already obtained this or I am already perfect, but I press on to make it my own. Because Christ Jesus has made me his own. Brothers, I do not consider that I have made it my own, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining towards what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Jesus Christ. Let those of us who are mature think this way. And if in anything you think otherwise, God will reveal that also to you. Only let us hold true to what we have attained. Brothers, join in imitating me, and keep your eyes on those who walk according to the example you have in us. For many," what he's talking about, "for many of whom I have told you, and now tell you, even with tears, walk as enemies of the cross of Christ. Their end is destruction. Their God is their belly, and their glory is their shame, with minds set on earthly things. But our citizenship is in heaven, and from it we await a Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will transform our lowly body to be like his glorious body, by the power that enables him even to subject all things to himself." Talking about people that used to share these kingdom values, that used to be a part of the church. And listen to what he says. Their end is destruction. Their God is their belly. Their glory is their shame, and their mind set on earthly things. Church, this is our message of gluttony. Enjoy the goodness this world has to offer. Do. Enjoy it. Savor it. Experience it. But never let us lose sight of what matters more. Never let your belly become your God, or your entertainment become your God, to where that begins to override and take the place of these kingdom values you once held. Church, let that not be us. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you, a generous and benevolent God who creates not just the bare minimum of what we need, but, Lord, a world that is bountiful and beautiful to be enjoyed and savored and experienced, one that brings worship to you. But God, I pray that in our enjoyment of these things, we do not pursue them with the aim of our life. We enjoy them with gratitude, but we remind ourselves that your values, your kingdom values, matter most. And Lord, I pray that those things that we enjoy do not become idols in our lives that we worship with the aim of our lives. Be with us in Jesus' name.